Welcome to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am joined today by William King. He is the co-founder and CEO of SuperCopy.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, I like it.
Thank you.
So before we get started, tell me a little bit about what does SuperCopy do?
We are basically, I'm always practicing, trying to say what are we, right? And right now I've evolved it to a more simple approach.
Okay.
We are the live brand guidelines for a industry. So that means like a corporate entity, franchise corporation, whatever we are the live brand guidelines that sit on top of an AI algorithm. That's the kind of going thing that I feel like, we'll later talk about personas, but live brand guidelines.
Okay. Yeah. I like that because
it's catchy.
It's catchy. It's also practical because what happens is you build a set of brand guidelines and there's this assumption that I could give it to anyone in the company and they're going to follow it correctly.
Oh yeah.
That is not true. You give it to a person and their interpretation of the brand guidelines is very different from yours and they probably don't have an eye for it.
No, right? Every brand guideline that I received in my prior work, we redid.
Yeah.
Because now I'm the one in charge of doing this, right? It's a weird, pass
Hey,
off
now don't give away marketing tricks. This one isn't complete enough.
Yeah, we gotta add some more of this.
Well, but the problem though is that if you as the person who owns it from a marketing perspective, once you're giving it to other people on the team, it's very difficult to get others to follow. They don't understand the nuance.
You're selling your individual POV to somebody else,
right?
Which takes time, and you can do it, but also just takes time and pressure.
Yeah, well, and leans into this preciousness of marketing, and people tell us as marketers are precious, right? But it's because my orange is a specific orange.
Yeah.
If you use a different orange or you don't say the thing
burnt orange looks really good.
Well, this is not a Liger orange.
Yeah.
I'm
off brand.
I'm
SuperCopy would have docked
brand
some points
adjacent.
There. Yeah.
I'm brand adjacent right now, but this would not be in my brand guideline. Yeah. So with SuperCopy, how the heck did you end up deciding to build or do this?
Gosh, how far back you want me to go?
Well, probably, I probably don't need to know about your kid years.
Yeah,
anything,
no. So, I am a reformed consultant.
Okay.
Right. So I lived the consultant lifestyle after college. I went to college for ID at Auburn, so industrial design.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know what that is, but I built products for people. So user research, user experience, anything that a human touches, we're touching it. So it's kind of more of like a discovery career that you find in college because no one knows about. I'm going to be an architect, and it was like, hey, let me do something a little more morally good, right, for the people. But that turned into this idea of me being in this consultancy, me living the life of consulting, and realizing that there was this weird balance and dance of this idea of teaching people who their audience is.
Yeah.
And it sounds super cliche, but literally anything you do as a designer, marketer, creative, who are you doing it for? It matters. A lot of times people do it for themselves, and that ends up in a weird trash can somewhere, or you do for the brand.
Yeah.
Not good either because people like to hear themselves talk. So really kind of finding this idea that, hey, it's really hard to understand who that person is. And then post consulting, me thinking that I was on top of the world, I can do anything, as most consultants think, I then jumped into the world of startup.
Okay.
And 4 startups later, I found myself falling forward. I found myself with my own design consultancy. So marketing, kind of boutique design services, where we are trying to get paid now for what we were doing for startups, right?
Okay.
We were trying to kind of use this problem solving, this whole idea of designing for the audience to really kind of create this sensation. But it's hard, right? We were always constantly looking. We're always trying to find out are we building the right thing for the right person? And are we just kind of checking, things off a list for our clients? And one day I had a really smart, shout out Yuma Tanaka, on my team. I said, hey guys, check out this thing called GPT 1.2 or something. And we're like, what is that? And he said, it's magic. So he pulled up this really ugly dashboard, showed me this kind of approach of hey, make a poem, I think was the first thing he showed me. And literally it was like magic. Everyone's first kind of experience with anything GPT or AI related, you're like, did you write that? Is this when there's Ask Jeeves tricks back in the day? What is this? And it was just truly magic for us until we started saying, hey, how can we use this to make our marketing a little bit more successful, a little more easier, so we can focus on more of the fun stuff that we were doing. So strategy, design, stuff like that.
Well, and also making the strategy and designs are accurate, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But at the time, we were literally just saying, hey, who can write emails for us?
Right.
Because most of my time was trying to find that next contract, right? Trying to make all these emails. And it's hard. It's so hard. So we made this ugly widget. It was never supposed to see the light of day. I think we called it gosh, like email AI or something. It was like all it was a Google sheet. Who are you talking to? Describe them a little bit, write an email. It worked so well that our clients literally were like, who are you using for your email? Yeah. And we're like, well, actually, it's this person called AI. And we showed them, and all of them had that wow moment. All of them threw their credit cards on the table saying, hey, like I like what you're doing for us, but I really like that. Like, how can I buy that? Yeah. And we're like, yeah, give us $300 for it. Right? We're just throwing, costs out the window, and people were buying it and using it. And gosh, a year later, we were fully focused just on SuperCopy. So there's really weird kind of serendipitous find of trying to locate the audience through all these startups I was doing, finally finding something that kind of hacked it for us to be a little more easier to allow me to focus on other things, then realizing we just designed something not just for ourselves, but what other people experience too. So it's like a really nice kind of founder fit, again, serendipitous moment that worked out for us.
But yeah, I think that happens more often than people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that is the delicate balance, because my background is entrepreneurial. So I've done a bunch of startups and things, and you have this, well, how long do I continue to follow the thing I think I'm building?
Yeah.
And what do I avoid as sort of places that I'm going to go down a path that may not, shiny object syndrome. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so learning that was the shiny object you should go after, there's a little bit of a bet there.
I was always betting. Yeah. I mean, I betted on 3 other bets beforehand. Right. And, we learned a lot, and some were semi-successful, but you realize that in every one of those bets I did, or other, previous, businesses we created, they're good products for the wrong people.
Yeah.
And that happens so much. I mean, gosh, I see startups today doing the same thing, and you see them.
Not completing the full story.
Yeah, they're not. They're talking to 20 people before they jump into building something. Yeah. And I mean, for SuperCopy, gosh, I've talked to probably 1,500 to 2,000 marketers.
Yeah, because that's how he sells things. He calls you and he says, "I'd like to show you a thing."
Allegedly.
I'd like to see what you think.
Allegedly.
Of it. Yeah. And it's a good tactic. Like
customer discovery sells.
Yeah.
If you do it right, it sells.
It does. Well, and if you're solving a problem, and it's a great way to allow the customer's thumbprint on something as they're moving along. Yeah. So I never found out, because it isn't called email AI anymore. So it's called SuperCopy.
SuperCopy.
So how did you come up with the name?
Well, one day I went on Google Domains, and I was looking at the
way
AI.
Every good business.
Yeah, and there's a couple ones that, and we were like, literally, we're doing copy. Let's, we've discovered later copy AI is taken. That's one of our competitors actually, and we're like, well, we're super, we're better, right? Yeah. Let's we are SuperCopy, and it also had a good not really alliteration, had a good bounce to it. So we're SuperCopy AI, and it was a placeholder. Gosh, we're getting into images. We're doing a lot of other stuff now. We're kind of outgrowing the name.
Yeah.
And people loved it. They told us not to change it, except for a couple, people that said it reminded them of Kinko's, but they're, they lived in that kind of copier time. And I was like, I don't know. It doesn't really exist as much anymore.
I never thought of it that way. Yeah. Now I may never unthink of it that way, but I always imagine a cape and
but it's also good branding, right? Now we're now addicted to it, super everything, right?
Yeah,
what can we apply super to? I even thought about buying. I actually have it, supermarketing.ai.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm like, hey, why not? Let's keep kind of building this, marketing branding approach of we are super.
Yeah.
We are super because of other, things we can get into, like personas.
Yeah. Well, but you talked about that at the beginning about how can provide guardrails for brand guidelines and things. But so starting point for SuperCopy, if I'm coming to it and I'm a brand new, how does it determine? Because let's say I don't have, a lot of companies don't have brand guidelines. They're too small. They don't even understand what the concept is. Yeah. So how do you start getting someone into the space of understanding what they should be saying to their customers?
What we discovered, and this is crazy, through all this customer discovery, the 2 questions that they could not answer is describe your brand.
Yeah.
Very hard question. You can have an opinion on it, or, hey, we are fun. We are in the steel industry. We're tough. All right. So there's ways to kind of try to perceive it. And the harder question was always, who is your audience?
Yeah.
Who is your customer? Most people would say, we are selling to people who want to buy cell phones in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, that's
a demographic.
That's pretty broad. Yeah. You're like, are they what do they do for work? Oh, they have enough money to buy our product. And again, they're not thinking of the nuances that make, true brands stand out.
Yeah.
And, in an era of just, being overflown with media content, we were just talking earlier that people are wanting more and more content. If you're not making the right content for the right people at the right time, you're wasting money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but again, so if I come to you, how do I start with SuperCopy? Does it?
Yeah, you just put your URL in your website, and we scrape all of your data, look at your competitors. We do a pretty big sweep of the internet focused on your brand, your industry, et cetera. And we create what we call the brand persona.
Okay.
And that's really the foundation, the start of what SuperCopy does. That is the guardrail that now represents you as a business using SuperCopy. And the other side of that, we use that data to help you find the audiences. So if we know who you are and what you sell, your positioning, we can 100% tell you who is looking for that, what are their psychographics, what is going to trigger them to buy from you. It is the full picture, and that is now happens in like 30 seconds.
Interesting.
That's our wow moment when we were like onboarding people.
Yeah, because having run the marketing firm now and using AI tools, what's been interesting, and I talk about the fact that it's a curation thing. Yeah. So you have to curate the content when it comes back. It can create it for you, but you need to know how to kind of give it that last finesse. So this sounds like it might get me a little closer than just using a standard.
I tell people get you 95% of the way there. Never send something without looking, because I've seen posts, I'm sure you have too, that says sign your name here or like add your title of brand here, where they're not necessarily following through. They're kind of letting AI take the wheel. But I mean, we're getting really close to getting something that is pretty fully automated, that allows people more confident automation, which is something that we're trying to kind of really focus on, is how can I make you confident as a marketer where you don't feel like you always do have to go in and fine tooth comb everything.
Yeah. And so before we get out of your kind of history to where you are, so industrial design, isn't that typically around like physical things?
Especially back in the day, like the rock star industrial designers were like consumer electronics. So people like, Johnny Ives, like, doing the whole iPhone, sport equipment, and that's where I lived for so long. But then as time went on, even the clients that we were serving at the consultancy I was at started to become more digital as well. Okay. Because now you're creating not just a product, but the experience that involves the whole product. Because normally you have multiple teams do packaging, product, online experience, and they're all different. Yeah. And you end up having a disjointed, not good customer experience that tends to lead to non-purchases or non-use. Yeah. So you just in general have been more around a holistic look. Holistic. Yeah, because some people lean one way or the other typically. I mean, don't get me wrong, I miss sketching products. I really do. Every now and then, if you look at my notes, like, well, could be a SuperCopy something. I got lots of doodles, right? I mean, I was paid to doodle for a very long time. And I mean, I think just where stuff is going digitally, I mean, you can't ignore it. Yeah. Most of my friends in ID have become UI UX designers. I think it's one of the best kind of, thoroughfare of UX is from ID. Okay, well, good. Well, we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we get back, I'm going to ask you a little bit about client customers, so like who uses the product today, and then sort of, because you're in this AI world and no one quite knows what it is or what it's going to do. It's like, what's your future thinking? What do you think the future looks like? Awesome. So look forward to it. We're talking to William King. He is the co-founder and CEO of SuperCopy. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives, and we'll be back in just a minute. The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger. Liger is a hybrid marketing firm combining a brand strategy consultancy and a production house that offers the full range of content and creative services. We can be your entire marketing department or your entire marketing department's favorite people to work with. We save the world from boring, broken marketing by putting businesses in brand therapy so they can express their most authentic, memorable selves. And then we share their story so they can be known. For more information, visit ligerpartners.com and follow us on our social media platforms. And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives, and we're talking about that all-important trend of the day, the AI world, this sea change that we're seeing. I remember the conference I went to right after AI was first announced, and everybody had taken an AI sticker and stuck it to the end of their booth. It was like literally everywhere. Yeah. So I'm with William King. He is the co-founder and CEO of SuperCopy, which in my opinion is, you guys were really at the forefront of applying AI in a useful and meaningful way, right? You talked about the poems. We used them here at the Layer a couple times to write some fun poems and to kind of
get a feel for what it would do and how it would work.
Yeah.
So in this sort of world of AI, you're working and selling a tool into big companies, and it's going into their primarily marketing departments.
Marketing departments, sales teams, product owners. I mean, we're really still seeing like the adoption of just who wants to use it, let them use it and see what they find. But we were made for marketers, and we're realizing everyone wants to be a marketer.
Well, everyone thinks they're a marketer.
Yeah.
That's a whole conversation.
Yeah.
I was in a room yesterday with people and they kept saying that word marketing. I'm like, you're not marketing.
Everyone says they're creative.
But everyone is creative.
Yeah.
It just depends on their creativity, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Right?
I mean, we were just trying to define that last week.
Literally, I'm an entrepreneur because I'm creative from a business perspective. But if you ask me to draw something or paint, you would throw it away.
Exactly. Well, I don't know.
No, you would.
Okay.
I'm telling you. So tell me a little bit about then, what's the common thread? Like when you're walking into one of these organizations, what is it that they tell you that they're adopting SuperCopy for?
Well, 3 years ago, they said, no, AI is scary. And again,
doesn't that sound like every other technology?
Yeah, so I mean, I think as you said,
we're not going to be on the internet.
We were cutting edge, so we were on the education side of things. We had to train people. What is AI? Again, AI has been around, and you said you just went to a conference about the release of AI. It's been around for 8 years.
So I'm old, and I did my senior project in college on AI.
Yeah.
There was a project called the Psych Project that was running in Austin, Texas. And I flew out and met the group that was doing that. This was a very long time ago. And they were teaching a computer like how to learn and do and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I agree with you. It's just now.
But it's way better now. I mean, it's like it's way better. It's accessible. I mean, that's what everyone's talking about. But no, it was a hard journey. I mean, it really required a lot of relationship building. I found out, especially with new kind of scary, quote unquote, technology, the person selling it matters.
Yeah.
So a lot of coffees, a lot of dinners, a lot of
one's your
calls.
Internal champion too. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That is the hardest part. Finding someone who is buying in and then willing to navigate. Because I'm, from the outside looking in, I don't know, the structure of the company. I don't know their like risk tolerance, right? I don't know who I should avoid, what words will trigger something that's good. So I mean, literally, internal champions are like the gold mine.
Right.
Always find one.
Right. Yep.
You guys know who you are. Thank you.
And so, but common thread though now, because you said 3 years ago they were scared of it. What's the thing?
Now they want it. Now they're calling it. So it's funny. So people that said no to us are now reaching out saying, hey, we have you pitching us something 3 years ago. We kind of, our competitor has something like this. Can you help us achieve what they're achieving? So people now know they have it. It's on every stakeholder's whiteboard probably right now is how do you implement AI? Right. And I think it's a great time to be selling AI, but also a very scary time as well, because now, I hate to say omni-channel, right? AI is kind of scary for an omni-channel approach, because now we have all these different teams, all these different, companies playing with different types of AI that do different things for different people. So now we're kind of getting into this weird issue of too many SaaS, right? Like we're gonna have who's communicating to what, but though we're all using kind of the same foundational model. So I mean, literally it now is easy. I don't want to say it's easy to sell, but it is people are now coming to us as opposed to me having to knock on 3,000 doors.
Well, it's the difference between we don't know what it is, we're not going to buy it, and oh my gosh, I'm hearing about it and my boss wants it.
Exactly.
And then those are dangerous buyers because they buy and they don't know what it is. And then you end up doing cleanup because there's 7 tools and they all do something slightly different. And how should that work? This is like kind of wild west category.
Yeah, and that's why I think the most successful buy-ins that we've had are people that start with pilots. Right? They say, hey, let's test this, paid pilot. How will this work on at an organizational level, and also allows them insight and feedback into building the product for them. Yeah. I mean, we're still very much a startup, right? We're doing well, but at the same time, gosh, we have dreams, aspirations of where we want to take this product, and that requires constant ideas, constant feedback from the people we want to use it, which are corporations.
Well, and the what it is and how it's defined is also changing. So there's this expectation. Well, but there's this expectation with technology that it, this wave is one of the fastest waves of what it was yesterday is not what it is today.
And that makes it hard building in the AI space, because if you show them something really good, they say, oh my gosh, I love that. But if you can do that, you must be able to do these 20 other things that AI I know can do. Yeah. And it makes it pressure of what do we include? We want to be that kind of partner in a company that tells you what is the AI you should be using. Yeah. Because all AI is not necessarily good. a lot of it's bad.
So this is not a prepared question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Sure. So as the founder and thinking about where SuperCopy does, is SuperCopy part and parcel to something, or is it its own platform?
Oh, you asked a question that literally we're talking about every single day. It is something that we are building a platform approach. Okay. We are looking at copy, we're looking at video, we're looking at scheduling, we're looking at the whole experience of like, what is the whole funnel of marketing? And I think it's required to do the job right. Yeah. I think right now we're a great tool for part of the process, but at the same time, anytime there's handoff in part of the process, that process could get messed up. Yeah. There's room for error to occur, and we're seeing that, where you can write a killer Facebook post on SuperCopy and post it on a Facebook account with 2 followers. It's not going to perform that well, all right? Or
come on.
Or like LinkedIn, right? Yeah. We have people using us for LinkedIn a lot, and they say, "Hey, I'm not getting engagement." Like, well, you got to do the other part. You got to go follow people, comment. So there's a whole approach that AI can assist with, but it can't do everything now.
But you see, you and I were talking about during the break that like AI is going to come for your job.
It is.
Okay, so tell me, what would you think?
So all these things are slowly but surely.
But then isn't the AI just talking to the AI, and who cares anymore, right? So like if you put it on LinkedIn and then someone else is doing it.
You do have to be careful about AI biases or like the AI bubble. You do have AI, like let's say I ask a question about, what is Liger, right? If there's blogs about Liger written by AI that was potentially looked at
it's AI. It's a combination of a Liger and a Tiger. And
I mean, like you get this thing where you're going to have AI learning from AI, right? And that is scary because there's inherent a lot of biases that go into that. But in marketing, we like bias, right? We want to be able to kind of curve what you think a little bit. We want to make sure that we are delivering what the brand wants you to think. So it's okay in some instances to have this kind of AI fed data, but you do have to be careful about where the data is coming from. That's why we are big on those brand guidelines. Yeah. We have some sort of human input of like saying, hey, here are the rules, right? Here are the guardrails we feel safe applying AI, and now the AI will not leave those guardrails. So it kind of allows you to approve data without even knowing it of what it is before it's coming into SuperCopy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar, thinking about it from a marketing perspective. AI in general is interesting because, see, I kind of like when I grew up and some of the 8 stages I went through because I can see if something's authentic or not. Yeah. Like we were talking about, I'm running a research project for our company, and we don't do them that often, but I'm doing a research project, and I used AI to help build the discussion guides and the screeners, but because I've done it, I've literally handwritten them. Yeah. I know that they're right or wrong. Yeah. So I think the danger is in someone who doesn't understand it using it for something like that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like that's where they're leaning into this is going to be a good screen, and it's not, right? Because it's got some bias in it, or it's not even going to get the person that you want qualified, or you're not going to learn the thing. So that's where it's interesting to me, right? Like people still needing to authentically understand parts of the business, And
I think that's what we're trying to do. We're big about making data accessible.
Right.
With these personas, we're creating brand personas, audience personas. We're now creating basically a data library for a company to use and trust, right? As opposed to, there's lots of companies out there using just straight, raw ChatGPT and throwing company data in there and hoping that ChatGPT is understanding, right? So you're kind of now dependent on AI to understand what you want, and then delivering you something it thinks you want. Yeah, and that's where the danger happens. Where that's where the AI bias comes.
And that's where a SuperCopy system is good because it gives you this like private place to build the rules, figure things out.
It'll always be on brand, always be on target, no matter what.
Right.
Anywhere and everywhere. Yeah.
So AI is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah. It's like the thing. What do you think future-wise?
Well, everyone's talking about it, but they're talking about it like literally as if it was 2 years ago. Where I'm going to a lot of these events where people are saying, AI is a little hype, but it's almost there, right? It's going to kind of be able to produce things, but it still has to be heavily monitored, heavily controlled. And I do agree to a point where that is where we are currently, but we need to be thinking, 1 year, 2 years ahead, where I truly think, like at least what we're building at SuperCopy, we're building an engine, right? And right now we have a couple pieces missing that you still, require a human to check. And you always will need a human to, run diagnostics, make sure it's running efficiently. But I mean, AI is only getting better. Yeah. And it's only getting better with the data you give it as well. So that's why we're, glad at SuperCopy how we're treating people's data. We're always using it, as authentically as possible. That's a huge thing because that matters down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and matters from the perspective of you don't want to continue to pass forward errors and things that are being created or introduced into the system because it's just garbage in, garbage out kind of concept.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do you keep up with like what's new and what's hype and what's not, since you're in it every day, right? Like I am keeping up with it as it relates to just things that come through the generic news feeds, but I'm not building an AI tool, right? I'm using some. So where are your sources that you really trust?
Newsletters, TLDR, AI is a really good place. Okay. Medium's a great place to sometimes get opinionated articles. Look at the big people at Google, Twitter, or X. A lot of people who are dealing with a lot of this marketing AI, and just listen. I mean, there's a lot of, you got to be careful about the people who are shouting too loud sometimes, but I mean, there's a lot of good progress happening. People, again, like I think we're trying to scare people, AI is going to take your job, but in a very good way, to allow you to do other things, right? Where, AI is only going to help you. Yeah,
I think what we have to figure out, I understand, because I got my degree in computer science and I torn computers apart and put them together. Mm-hmm. And I know people who've never opened a computer in their life. Never, right? So I know like the boards and how those work. So I have like these really interesting fundamental understanding, and how we then, this is just me waxing poetic.
Yeah.
Because like in school, we don't teach people just standard finance, right? Like how to balance their checkbook. And so if they now can go to this tool, because they've talked about the next generation being always on. I think they're calling the next one is going to be generation beta or something like that. Meaning that I just pick up my phone and I can get any question answered, which means I never have to think. And then I just assume that the answer is right.
Yeah.
And those two things are so dangerous.
No, I think AI within like news and information is very scary, right? Because now a lot of people are dependent on that little summary that Google gives you. And normally that summary is coming from potentially AI written articles and blogs.
Yes.
So again, we're already beginning to see like this weird unchallenged, like, oh, Google says it, right? And already people were dealing with that, but at least you had to kind of go and read it for yourself.
I want it to be like Wikipedia-ish still.
You do. But again, people are building a lot of stuff around this whole idea of is AI right or not, but time will tell about that. But already we're living in an age where, media and information is already at a kind of standstill of like what is real and what's not.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, of course.
How do people get all the stuff on SuperCopy?
www.supercopy.ai. We have some great tutorials on there to find out what's going on. Follow me on LinkedIn, William King. There's a lot of them out there, but look at my face.
Only one William King.
Only one William King. And again, we are actively having conversations about AI. We're trying to invite people to find out what do they think AI is, because it is still an idea. AI is like a culmination of a lot of like people's perspectives of like, what is this technology? Yeah. And we're still early, even though it's been around for a while, we're still early in public perception of it. So as long as we can kind of, be able to contribute to that in some way, I think it's positive. And I'd love for people to ask me questions, ask me the hard questions as well to see, hey, where is AI headed? And I'd love to kind of have that discussion with people.
Yeah, and those waves of people saying, oh, well, that's yesterday. I'm still talking to people about things that we talked about in 2008, and they act like it's
coming.
New.
There's stuff coming. Like, again, 2 years from now.
But still, like, the adoption rates are just so, people take so long to look at these things.
They do, which makes sense. You want to be tried and tested, but AI is doing that like every 2 weeks.
Sometimes you're in like that conference, that you're at that conference, and they're like, we're doing this thing called personalization. And I'm like, yeah.
So personalization, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah.
So thanks so much for joining me.
Of course.
As a user of SuperCopy, Liger uses SuperCopy, and we have it within some of our Tarkington Liger clients. I'm a strong believer and proponent of it. It is a really cool platform and allows you to help to keep those brand guidelines in place, both for your marketing team and sales organizations, because the sales teams often don't know how to follow those guidelines as well.
Well, it's hard.
It is.
Can't blame them.
It's not necessarily their job. Their job is to find a customer. Not necessarily.
Exactly.
So thank you all for joining in to The Claw. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. And until next time.